August 6th, 2015. From El Cajon, California, this is episode 78 of You Can Bet on That. Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can Bet on That, a podcast for the recreational gambler. My name is Mark Duvall, and sitting next to me is Dr. Mike.
Hello.
We've been trying to find, cheap places to play blackjack in Las Vegas, right? And we mentioned in a previous podcast that on Thursdays at Binion's downtown, they do have dollar blackjack. It goes from like noon to midnight, and I think they have 3 tables. Listener Eddie was able to confirm that it is 3-2.
Oh, great.
Blackjack. So that's good. That's good. Another thing that he
surprising, but good.
Yeah. The other thing he told us is it's single deck.
Really?
Yeah. So single deck, 3-2 blackjack, $1 blackjack in Las Vegas.
Well, he doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, that's
what would
great.
be a better game? There's no better blackjack game.
Yeah, and I think it's great. I don't know if it's like a loss leader for Binion's, because it's only $1 and you've got a dealer there. But it's not like they're going to really lose that much money on a dollar table. Counters aren't going to be interested in it because I'm sure the maximum bet is maybe like $25 or I don't know, even if it's $100.
Probably $100.
It wouldn't be worth it to a card counter, right? Because they want to be able to bet more than that.
Right, but single deck 3-2.
Yeah.
I would go and bet like $10 a hand.
Really. I'd like to find a single deck anywhere that's 3-2.
Single deck that's 3-2. I'd go and play. I'd probably be betting $25 a hand.
And he wasn't sure what some of the other rules were. Like, can you double down on anything? I think he said you could double down on anything. He wasn't sure about like doubling down after splits and things like that. But still, there you go.
Still,
a good game. Still
3-2 single deck.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
Not going to see that anywhere else.
Nope, that's great. So hopefully that's a trend.
Yeah.
That'll happen. But
it'll probably be one of those things. If it happens, it'll be like, a Thursday or a Tuesday.
Like they do. Yeah, right. Off days.
Yeah, it's not going to be, Friday night at 8:00 or Saturday all day.
Yeah.
That'd be us. That'd be our casino. Saturday all day, 3-2 blackjack.
Yeah, that's right. And then the rest of the week it's 6-5.
Right.
We got an email from listener Brian. So he was at a $5 craps table in Tahoe, at State Line in Tahoe, right?
All right.
Playing craps, and the dice were being passed to a new shooter. And he was third in line to shoot. After the shooter that was getting the dice.
There were 2 more people.
There were 2 more people, and then it was going to be his turn to roll.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
All right.
So he said that a player from the opposite side of the table picked up his chips and moved to the right of Brian, thus making this player now the third in line to shoot. And now Brian was fourth in line, right? So Brian was kind of asking, what should the etiquette be there, right? Was what this guy did, was that out of line?
Yeah, that's kind of out of line.
I think it is because it's not like he just stepped up to the table.
Right.
He was actually on the other side of the table.
Right.
And Brian said he mumbled something when he came over, like, oh, got to change my luck, when probably he just wanted to shoot the dice sooner.
Sure.
Right?
Well, a lot of times if a guy just walks up to a table, you can't fault him. They just take an open spot. If it happens to be they're going to shoot next or, 2 times away, that's just the way it goes. But if you actually move on the same table to a better spot where you can shoot sooner, if I was a stick man, I'd pass him right up.
Well, see, here's the thing. Now, if this guy on the other side of the table, if he did shoot when it was his turn, and Brian couldn't remember if he had, but if he had already shot,
he should be passed.
And then he moved, then you should pass him. They've done that to me, and rightfully so.
Right, you're supposed to.
There have been plenty of times where maybe you and I will go up to a table and there isn't room for us to stand right next to each other, so we'll be separated. And then once there is room opens up, one of us will move.
Right.
But if we've already shot, and we're kind of jumping the line, they'll say, oh, hey, Mark, we've got to skip you. It's like, oh, yeah, I understand.
They always ask. They say, oh, we have to skip you. You moved.
Right.
That's fine.
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, if that's what happened in this case, then it should be up to the dealers to definitely skip this guy.
Right.
But if that was not the case, let's say the guy had been playing there a while, hadn't rolled yet, it's still kind of crummy.
Yeah. Well, he's one of these wonderful people that thinks that he rolls the dice better than everyone else.
Right.
And then gets the dice and immediately sevens out.
Yep.
And you're thinking to yourself,
Yeah,
shoot him again, buddy. Well done.
Well done. Well, everybody likes to shoot the dice, right? I mean, that is part of the fun. But here's what Brian said. I'm just reading exactly what he wrote here. As evidence that it wasn't just a one-time thing for him, he left immediately after shooting and I saw him appear later on the opposite side of the table. So, this is a guy who's he's moving around. He just wants to shoot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I'd say that's bad etiquette. Yeah. But it's like you said, if you're just coming up to a table for the first time, sometimes you're just finding the
only spot open.
Or the biggest open spot, right? You want to have a little room.
Sure.
If you're next to shoot, yeah, I mean, if I have some choices and I realize that I'm about to kind of scoot in and it would be my turn to shoot and I'd be cutting off some guy, then I'll move. Right. It's like, I'll pass the dice.
A lot of times, if you do that, let's say there's one spot and it just happens to be next to the shooter. So you go up, you buy in, or you wait your turn. If you haven't played on the previous shooter's hand, they will skip you.
Sometimes they will. Sometimes they won't.
Sometimes they won't. Yeah. Sometimes they will. But some casinos will say, sorry, we got to skip you. You didn't play the last hand.
I think that's a good policy. We kind of have a policy like that at our poker home game, right? So like we always have people that are showing up late, right? And we have the deal moves around the table, right? So if somebody comes in and they're late and it turns out they'd be next to deal, we don't let them deal because they haven't played a hand yet.
Right. They got to wait their turn. They got to go around. Yeah. I like that rule. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It encourages people to be on time.
Oh, yeah. I guess it does. It's certainly not working with our group. I'm lucky if one person shows up on time every week. Yeesh. Hey, thanks to everyone who's been clicking through our Amazon link. Remember, when you're going to buy something through Amazon, go to our page first, youcanbetonthat.com, and click through our Amazon link at the top of the page. That way, when you make a purchase, we get a little kickback that helps cover the costs of hosting the show, and it doesn't cost you a thing. You'll pay the same price just like normal. So this last weekend up at Harrah's, Southern California, we had a nice listener meetup with listeners Todd and Amanda.
Yeah, very nice time.
Yeah, that was great meeting up with them. Terrific people. We actually sat and had dinner with them because they hadn't really eaten. They were coming straight from the Del Mar races.
Right. And that's a long day.
That is a long day.
When you go to a full day of races and it's hot out there, on the track and stuff, it gets pretty warm. So kudos to them. I don't think I would have done it.
I know. It's so great that they came up all this way. Plus, it's not, the easiest of drive. It's kind of a mountain drive up
it's out there.
To Harrah's. But anyway, so we had some dinner. And then Todd and I played some craps a little bit. There wasn't a lot of room at the table. So you actually went to another table.
I was on another table,
It didn't go so well for you. We did okay.
That table was not good. It turned out it was great later.
Yeah.
Because after they left.
Let's talk about that. After they left. Yeah. But so Todd and I played, maybe only about 20 minutes, something like that. And we both won. He had a pretty good roll. We weren't, we were just basically pass line, and I was making a few cum bets. But that went really well. But it was great meeting with them. One of the things that they told us, and this was fantastic. They were in Vegas. I think they were saying it was back in May. And at the Tropicana, they found a Jacks or Better 9-6 nickel machine.
A nickel machine?
Yeah, on the strip.
Full payout nickel machine.
Full pay Jacks or Better nickel on the strip.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's still there.
Well, I don't know. I went to vpfree2.com and I didn't see it there. Yeah. I did see some nickel full pay bonus poker, but not specifically Jacks or Better. Now, that's not to say it isn't still there. VP Free 2 might not, have everything up to date, but I thought that was great that they were able to find that. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That is wonderful.
Another thing they mentioned too, and I don't know why we didn't know this.
This is lame on our part.
I know it is. Well, so we while we were eating, we started to talk about old casinos and some of the casinos that aren't there anymore, that kind of thing. And we talked about the Silver Slipper. That used to be just south of Stardust, right?
Right.
If I'm remembering correctly. Right, yeah. And so we were saying, we love that big slipper out front. And they said, Todd and Amanda told us that, it's actually out there on Las Vegas Boulevard. Like in the median, they have the Silver Slipper up there, the big slipper, and it's lit. And I'm surprised we didn't know about this.
Well, didn't we drive by it when we went to SLS?
No, see, I don't think so. I think it's too far north on Las Vegas Boulevard, and the way that we drove, we just didn't see it. I don't know, Mike. We might have driven right past it and not even known. I don't know.
We're probably talking about gambling. Yeah, and we drove right by it.
But what it is it's actually just right outside of the Neon Museum, where the Neon Museum entrance is there on North Las Vegas Boulevard. And it's the Silver Slipper, and there are a couple other things in the median too, of a few blocks away. To the north of that is the old Binion's horseshoe sign.
Oh, okay.
And to the south of that is the original sign for the Bow and Arrow Motel. It's got like this neon bow and arrow and things like that.
The big neon sign.
Yeah, it's just right up there on the street there.
Yeah, we're going to have to drive by there.
We at least need to drive by to see that lit up. I'd like to see that again. We're going to have to check that out. Another thing also, Todd gave us the copies of the win cards that he got from Mandalay Bay. We talked about these win cards back in episode 70. But basically, you get some free play with them when you buy these, and then they give you these little wheels, these little paper plastic wheels that help you understand craps and roulette and
kind
blackjack.
of help you understand.
Kind of, yeah. The craps and roulette wheels, they're basically just they show the odds for the different bets and that kind of thing, and then the blackjack wheel kind of shows you basic strategy.
But it's not complete.
No. So it was funny because Todd was saying it tells you when should you split. And the only thing it ever tells you to split are aces and eights.
Yeah.
Right. And that's it. And so it's not a full, perfect basic strategy.
I wonder why they made it a wheel.
Well, to be consistent with, that was their thing. They had wheel for craps, wheel for roulette.
But I mean, why not just a little, you can buy a basic strategy, blackjack basic strategy, a graph thing.
Yeah, just a table.
And they're just like a little table.
Oh, yeah. I think they're easier to read than this wheel.
Oh, I think they're way easier to read.
And they're complete.
And the wheel, you have to move things around. I mean, it's just not easy.
Yeah,
right?
No, it wasn't. I mean, it's a gimmick more than anything else. Sure, they were nice enough,
Yeah, they were actually nice looking, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, Todd and Amanda, thanks for, we really enjoyed meeting you. Thanks for taking the time because honestly, yeah, they've been flying on a plane the day before. They've spent the whole day at the races.
Right.
And then they still took the time to come up and meet us. We really appreciate it.
It was great.
Yeah. So after they left, you were having a particularly bad night at the craps table.
It was not going well.
No.
Yeah, it was not going well.
Yeah.
It was like one of those nights where it started off pretty good, actually.
Yeah, it's
and
typical.
Then it just got terrible. It was like one of those things where at one point we had 6 immediate 7-outs.
Yeah.
6 shooters in a row.
Yeah, he's not exaggerating. It literally
immediately 7'd out. Yeah. I mean, point out, point out. That's unreal.
Yeah, it was
frustrating. I mean, nobody made one number.
Yeah. Well, finally, later that night, this woman got the dice. And how long do you think she rolled?
A good hour.
I think it was a good hour.
It was a good hour. It was probably a little over an hour because remember, we were going to leave.
Yeah, that's right.
We stayed for her roll and it kept going longer and longer. Yeah. And I'm telling Mark, when she finally wins the fire bet for all 6, this is going to be one hell of a roll.
Yeah, because the thing was, she was making points, but she wasn't making points that quickly.
No,
she was rolling a lot of numbers in between. But at the end, she had made 6 points.
Right.
Now, the only 4 unique points for the fire, right?
So, but I mean, in between each point, there were a boatload of numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, the game was moving fairly quick.
Yeah, it was.
It was a $25 table.
Yeah. Now, see, here's the thing. Now, Mike, you did fine. You made all your money back.
Yeah.
Now, $25 table, that is way too high for my bankroll. Right. So I was treading very lightly. Yeah. I basically said, okay, give me the 6 and 8 for 30 each.
Right.
And then I just collected. I didn't press. Maybe I started pressing towards the end of her roll, but I only won a few $100s. I was telling you later, if it had been a lower minimum table,
you would have cleaned up.
I probably would have made more money, but I was so scared playing at this quarter table.
Well, and
I only won a little bit.
And you're getting back to even, so you're thinking, well, I'm not going to go all out there and leave a boatload on the table.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So there was this guy also, we should mention this, who bought in for $50,000.
He was in for $50,000.
Cash.
Yeah.
Now, remember we talked about this before, like people with markers and stuff,
right.
who would bring that much money?
Yeah.
He had $50,000 in cash.
And he would cash in $10,000 at a time.
$10,000
He didn't do all $50,000, but
no, he laid it out.
Yeah.
He laid it out on the table, and then he would big bundles. Then he would give me 10,000 in chips. And one point it drove me crazy because he still had like 7,000 of his 10 left.
Yeah.
And he put another 10,000 in there to stop and count off.
Because that's $100 bills.
Yeah.
Right. And they have to, look at all of them and sign them off,
right.
So it took forever for him to buy in.
He was down to what, about 7,000, 6,000?
Maybe that, maybe less.
Maybe less. Could have been around 5,000. Then the lady got the dice.
Yep.
And like us, he made a huge comeback. He cashed out for $75,000.
$75,000. I think what he started with, he placed all the numbers for like 300.
Right, for 300.
Right? And then maybe he did a couple of presses, but then he started converting them to come bets.
Right.
He started by making like $300 come bets.
Right.
By the end of her roll, he had several of the bets up to the table maximum of $2,500.
Right.
He cashed out for $75,000, and then we saw him at the cashier, and he got $75,000 in cash. Yeah.
Put it back in his plastic bag.
Yep.
Put the plastic bag inside his backpack and put his backpack and walked away.
Yeah.
I remember him whistling, the theme song to the Andy Griffith Show as he walked away.
I know. I waved to him when he was walking by. We were all happy after that.
Yeah. Well, when they were counting his money, we were at the cage and he came over to me and said, "Oh, it was nice to make that comeback," and I said, "Yeah, good luck with the rest of the weekend." He was an out-of-towner.
Okay. Oh, he was.
And it was an interesting guy. He gave the woman like $500.
He did, tipped her $500.
Tipped her $500.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He gave the dealers $1,000.
Yep. I saw that at the end.
In chips.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then he still cashed out for $75,000.
Yep.
So
yeah. Anyway, so it was nice to have a good roll.
Yeah.
At least
it's been several weeks now of good nights.
Yeah, I know. It's been very good.
They've been choppy at points, but then we seem to, something happens.
I wish Todd and Amanda had been for that part.
God, that would have been
to kind of clean up.
Yeah.
But hey, let's move on to our voicemail hotline. Don't forget, call our hotline at 951-292-4377. That's 951-2-WAGERS.
951-2-WAGERS.
And maybe we'll play your clip on the show. Let's hear from Ian.
Hello again, it's Ian from Leicester in England, still in Vegas. Thought I'd give you one final check-in. Just a thought, we actually from England but love craps, but we can't really play at home. It's not really a game that's been embraced by England. I wish it was. But so obviously we take the opportunity to play here, and that's why I also love your podcast. But the computer game, the push the button, that particular game, we love it to practice on, because I think it's a pretty good place where you can practice different strategies. It can be fairly low stakes, and to try different things. But it's amazing how when you catch out the corner of your eye other people playing. There was one particular lady, she was on the don't, the point was 8, and yet she was loading big time on the big 6 and big 8, and also on the field bet, which I thought was crazy. Almost people play it like Keno. But we've been trying our don't strategy while we've been on it.
Yeah, and we talked about this before. Some of these machines are called shoot to win craps. It is a great way to
it's a
learn.
wonderful way.
Typically $3 minimum.
Right. Low limits. Mm-hmm. There is a little bit of a time constraint.
Yeah, we talked about that.
So if you're just learning the game, you have to move fairly quick.
Right. There is a countdown.
There is a countdown. Yeah. But you can learn one section of the game at a time. Like, let's say you learn come bets and that's all you do.
Yeah.
And, you can get that down pretty good before you move on to something else. It's a good way to learn.
Yeah. And plus, since it's a machine, if you say place the 6 for $3, you'll get paid $3.50.
Right.
Which wouldn't happen at a craps table. Typically, they don't have 50-cent pieces.
Right. Because you can cash out for any amount. It just prints you a voucher when you're done.
Yeah.
In terms of the real game, we went to Excalibur. We're only at the limit of sort of $5, so that's why we went to Excalibur. But I did put a bet on for the dealers on the don't during a roll, and he just said, "I can't do that, sir. I won't accept that," and he would not accept a don't bet. I just said, "Look, one of us win. Either we win or you win," and he wouldn't accept it and just moved it to the pass line. So I probably broke some kind of strategy there that I shouldn't have done.
Yeah, I don't think the dealers are.
They're not obliged to not accept a don't bet.
Well, I
don't think there's a rule like, oh, you can't take that.
Yeah, I think
he probably just wanted to be playing with them.
Yeah, right.
Right. Like, you win, I win. If you lose, I lose. Yes. I don't want to win money when you lose.
Yes, I think you're right.
I think the dealer was trying to be polite.
Yes.
If anything.
I think so too, yeah.
In terms of the Vegas trip, fantastic. Really love Vegas. Thank you for all you do in terms of the podcast. I just want to ask one final question. At the poker room, it said Nevada gaming regulations allow the use of shills and proposition of players. Shills and proposition players shall be identified by management upon request. I've no idea what that means. If you could explain, that'd be great. Thanks ever so much. Bye-bye.
Okay, yeah, shills and proposition players.
I'm surprised we have never talked about this.
I know, yeah, it's a
great question.
Yeah. Typically, when you hear the word shill, just in regular conversation, it means somebody who's like promoting a product or something and pretending like they don't have an interest, a vested interest in it. Like they're just some guy off the street. Hey, this shampoo's great. And it turns out he works for the shampoo company.
Right? Or he's being paid by the shampoo company.
Right, that would be like a shill. Or in like a gambling milieu, say say you're at a 3-card Monte game, right, in New York City, something like that. Well, there might be a player out there who it looks like he's playing and winning,
right,
when really he's working with the con man who's running the game, right?
Right.
And
it makes you think you can win too.
Yeah.
You play the game and lose. Oh, you're not as good as him.
Right.
And they got your money.
Right. Well, a shill when it comes to a legal poker game is not nearly as shady as shill that we use in
It's
in
a
regular
bad term, actually, because it sounds like something shady, and it's not.
It really isn't. It really isn't. All a shill is in a legal poker game, it's just a player who is paid an hourly wage by the casino to play in poker games to kind of keep them going.
Right.
Like if there aren't enough players.
Right. So if the game gets where, let's say there's only going to be 3 players and it's not so interesting, you know, and they don't want to close the table.
Right.
They have a shill come in and he'll just play, and, you know, that'll provide a 4th player or 5th player or whatever you need to keep the game going.
Exactly. He gets paid an hourly wage by the casino and he plays with the casino's money.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what's a proposition player? A proposition player is like a shill, except he's playing with his own money.
His own money.
Right.
So,
he's still getting a paid by the casino, an hourly wage.
Right.
But he's playing with his own money.
Right.
Right. So you'd rather be a shill than a proposition player.
Right.
And a casino would rather have a proposition player than a shill, right?
Right.
So that's
because that way maybe they get your money to offset what they're paying you. Right.
So if you're a proposition player, even if you're a shill, you need to be pretty good at poker, and you need to be pretty good at a lot of different games too, because you never know what game they're going to throw you into.
Well, I have a question. What do you think if you're a shill and you're playing with a casino's money? Do they have certain requirements for you as far as, like, you know, okay, they know you're a good player, but let's say you're, you know, aggressive versus someone who's non-aggressive. How do they say, you know, oh, look, we don't want you, you know, going out on a limb anytime, you know, take it easy?
That is a good question. I don't know if anybody else knows, let us know. But that is a good question, is, you know, what sort of requirements does the shill have to play under?
It's like Pie Gal. There's a house way to play Pie Gal, right? Now, you might not play that hand that way, but the house plays it a certain way. But in poker, there's no real way to say, this is the house way to play, right? You know, just fold that pair. It's not going to win, kind of thing.
That is a good question. It's like, okay, did they give the shill $100 and then, you know, he's just free to play however he wants? That's a very good question. Because
it'd be dangerous, right?
Yeah. We got a follow-up call from Ian.
Hello, Mark. Dr. Mike. It's Ian, Leicester in England. I thought I'd give you a quick call back because you asked on the last podcast who I'd back on the Open Golf Championship. I actually had my money on Oosterhausen, and of course he did make the playoff. But I did get an each-way bet, and I got 28 to 1. So because he finished in the top 6, it meant that I managed to make a bit of a profit. But I didn't manage to get that bet on in Las Vegas, of course, because of the sports books not entertaining an each-way bet. So I used a bit of naughty software on my laptop to fool my UK betting site to think I was in the UK. So that's how I got my bets on for that.
Good. Okay, good.
I don't know if he should be admitting that he kind of finagled his bet.
He had no choice.
Yeah, well,
what choice did he have?
He didn't have a choice.
Right, he wanted to put some money
and we'd all
down.
do the same thing. So.
Good. Well, I'm glad he won some on that. Yeah. If you want to know more about what he's talking about, each way betting, listen to our last episode 77.
Just a quick point about craps. We were playing at Paris, and there was a chap to my right who was playing the don't. And his strategy was $200 on the don't and $25 as place bets on each of the numbers. And his view was, if the place bets are coming up, he's getting paid. And of course, he can win if a 7 comes up after the point. So my question there is that a good strategy? He did seem to be losing a fair amount of money over time. Anyway, I may call you back later on in the year if I notice anything from the UK here on the betting. But thanks for all you do, and enjoying your podcasts.
All right, good. Thanks, Ian.
It's not a good strategy.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't know. I mean, is it good? What's the definition of good? It's like a hedging kind of a strategy.
But I think it's just in the long run going to eat you up.
Yeah, and I don't think I'd enjoy playing it either.
No,
that's the thing, because, what if, how many times have we been on a table and a person's not rolling numbers, but, he or she is rolling points?
Right.
Right. And, in this case,
that would kill you.
Yeah. He'd just be losing all his don't pass. He wouldn't be making any money on the place bets.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we've also been on tables where nobody's making points and they're rolling a bunch of numbers, which he'd do good on. So is it going to be good or bad? Who knows?
Sure. Who knows?
You'd have to see the rolls.
Yeah.
But to me, it just intuitively, I think that it would just slowly drain you.
Yeah. And, what if it was a situation where somebody was on a pretty good roll and say rolled like, 8 numbers.
Right.
So he's made, his investment back and then the person makes the point. And then they lose 200. Like, I don't know.
It would be, you'd have to have pretty thick skin.
Yeah.
To do this.
Yeah.
It would bug me. I couldn't do it.
I mean, there are a million systems out there for craps, right? Here's just another one. I just don't think it would be very fun.
Well, when you kept track of rolls, we'd play a full night and you'd keep track of every roll. Then you'd put them in the computer. And once you knew all these rolls, it was easy to come up with a system where we could have won, right?
Sure, yeah.
But ahead of time, it was basically impossible.
Yeah, of course not.
And it turned out some weeks there was no way to win.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah, right.
And so,
right.
And so the funny thing about that is, and I always think about this, is not knowing what's going to come up. You might as well play the way you get the most fun out of it.
Right.
And I just can't see where this would be any fun.
Yeah, that doesn't seem fun. Make it fun and make it smart.
Right.
If it's fun for you to make some stupid bets every once in a while, that's fine. But, be fun and smart.
Well, and some people make the stupid bets when they're up.
Yeah, right, sure.
Right, because they like and they have fun. And when they're not winning or they're not up when they first start, they're making only smart bets trying to get up. That is a good way to play.
Yeah, sure.
Really?
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next call.
Hello, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Chris from Round Rock, Texas. I'm a fan of the 500 show, and then I heard about you guys, and I started listening, and I absolutely love the podcast. I could listen to crap stories all day, and I was going to ask you guys a question and share a little story. My first trip to Vegas was about 8 years ago, and wasn't a big fan of casinos or gambling. I like playing, home games of poker, but never really liked gambling that much. It's my brother-in-law's bachelor party, and I was there for like a day and a half, and so I brought like $300 thinking, hey, if I lose this, whatever. Well, by the afternoon of that first day, I'd been there about 18 hours or so, I burned through all my money. And as you know, there's nothing worse than being in Vegas and not having any more money to gamble. I couldn't really afford to go to the ATM. So I had like $5 left, went to the roulette table and put it on 28. That was my wife's age. And so the ball starts rolling, and all of a sudden I just remember, oh crap, she had just turned 29 the month before. At the last moment, I moved to 29. 29 hits to get what it was, $170 or something like that. But more importantly, it saved my night. And so I just went out, had a great time with the guys, learned craps, played blackjack, and just had a fantastic time. I was hooked with Vegas, and I've been 10 plus 11 times since. So that's kind of how I fell in love with, gambling, specifically at the casino. So I was wondering if you guys had a story, or what made you originally fall in love with gambling. So love the podcast. Look forward to it every 2 weeks, and I'm catching up on all the back episodes. So hopefully I get a chance to see you guys out there and shoot some craps with you sometime. All right, bye.
Dr. Mike, have you ever run out of money in Vegas?
Let's see. Have I ever run out of money? Way too many times to admit.
Oh my gosh. It is a terrible feeling, isn't it? Especially when your options are none, basically. Yeah.
Right.
I remember, years ago, I went with my family and I had very little money to play with at all.
Yeah.
And I thought I couldn't go to the ATM. I had like nothing in my bank account, right? And it's like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do the whole time. And I have a similar story to Chris's. We were at at a restaurant at Binion's Horseshoe, and I said, well, I'll play some Keno. And I played a 4 spot for like $1, and all 4 came up. Yeah. And I think it paid like $120, and that kept me going, right. Like the whole rest of the weekend. Yeah. But there are plenty of times where I've run out of money and tried something like that and didn't win. And then I'm really out of money. I just sit around in the hotel room watching TV.
Right. Pouting. Well, my favorite running out of money story, and I think we've told this before, is when you and I were there. I was basically out of money. Yeah. I mean, I had some money in my pocket, but not very much.
Yeah.
and we walked over to, we had been playing craps the whole weekend and not doing well. And we walked over to Bellagio.
Yep.
Remember? And there's this slot machine. We were going to go get ice cream. We were so low on money. We were going to go get ice cream. But I saw this slot machine and there were two girls playing at the machine, this bank of slot machines. And I thought, well, I'm going to go stand next to those girls.
Right.
And
they took off real quick.
I sat down. They took off.
Yep.
I put my money in the machine, $20, $3 a pull, second pull, all these bells and whistles go off. I don't play slots. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And sure enough, won $15,000.
Yep.
So
it was.
So there got all my money back, and then we went to play craps.
No, we had to go down the plane. I think we did play little craps more, and then we had to get on the plane.
About 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then we had to go. We had to get on our plane.
Luckily, our plane was waiting for us. So what got you interested in gambling initially?
Well, I don't know. I really can't answer that question.
See, because now for me, there were two things. I've always told the story about my uncle taking me to the track, but even before that, both of my grandmothers loved to play cards.
Okay.
So when I would go, to their house and spend time with them, we'd end up playing cards.
Right.
And they were good card players too, right? So I definitely had that card base, going in. Yeah. And then, my Uncle Frank, a redheaded Irish uncle born on St. Patrick's Day.
Nice.
Okay. Took me to the took me to the track with my cousin.
All right. No, wait, you're getting confused here.
Boy. Anyway, they took me to the track and they won an exacta. And so it's like free money. So that's what hooked me. Yeah.
Well, for me, it's similar. I always liked cards.
Yeah.
My sister and brother and I played a ton of cards when we were kids.
Yeah.
Our parents owned a business and we spent a lot of hours in the back room of the business just hanging out after school and on weekends and stuff. And, we did our homework. We did this, we did that, but we played a lot of cards because it was simple. You just needed a deck of cards.
Yeah.
And we'd play, kid card games, and then we'd deal each other blackjack and stuff like that. And so I think that's where I kind of got hooked on it. And I didn't eventually, run an illegal, blackjack game in my high school.
No, who would do that? That's crazy. I can't imagine anybody would do that.
Yeah, why would someone
in real
do
life?
that?
And then, of course, we went to Vegas and we were hooked after that.
Yeah,
and,
and it's typical story, too. The first few times I went, anyway, I won.
Yeah, that's the worst thing that could happen.
Worst thing that could happen.
The first time you gamble, you win because then you're hooked. Yeah. All right, let's move on.
Hi, guys. This is Kevin from San Antonio. Great show. Really enjoy your podcast. I was listening to your show the other day, and it reminded me of something. Back in the day before the internet, if you wanted to make your sports wagers outside of Las Vegas, your local guy, you used to call him up on the phone and give him the code name. And anyway, they never took parlays. The only way you could bet on two teams was to do what they called an AR. I think that stood for an action reverse. I was curious, if that kind of bet's gone the way of the dinosaur. I don't think I've seen it recently. And also wondered what you thought of that from as far as whether it's a good bet or a bad bet from an odds perspective if you're trying to make a two-team type of bet. Thanks, guys.
Okay, good question. Kevin actually called back a couple more times to kind of clarify some of the points on this bet. But let's talk about this, okay? It's called an action reverse bet or sometimes just a reverse bet. And it's a way to bet on two teams. Now, a parlay is another way to bet on two teams, and it's probably a bet that most listeners are familiar with.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
If you have like a two-team parlay, that means you're betting that both of your games are going to win.
Right.
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 And so in a sense, what is happening when you make this bet is that if you win, say, the first game, then they take your initial bet and all your winnings
and put it on the second
and
game.
bet it on the second game. Right. Exactly. And the games could be being played at the same time, right? It's all just kind of math. You work through the math.
Right.
But it's that's what a parlay is. Now, a typical parlay, if you're just betting against the point spread, and remember, when you're just betting up against the point spread, it pays 10 to 11, right? So you have to bet $11 to make 10.
To win 10,
right?
Correct.
So if you are just doing a two-team parlay, typically a two-team parlay will pay 13 to 5 or 2.6 to 1. So if you bet $100, you'd win $260 if your parlay came in. Okay. And both games would have to win, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Let's talk about action reverse bets. So first, what we need to talk about is if bets. In sports betting. They're called if bets. And the way that an if bet works is you say, okay, I'm going to bet this much on game A. And if I win that bet, then please bet the exact same amount on game B.
Okay. Not the full amount that you won.
Full amount.
Just the exact same amount you bet on game A.
Right. So let's say you're saying, okay, I want to do an if bet for $55. And again, we're saying $55 because, again, it pays 10 to 11. So you bet 50 to pay 50, pay 55 to win 50, right? So I want to bet an if bet, and it's $55 on game A. And if I win game A, then bet 55 on game B.
Okay.
Okay. And if I don't win game A, then just
there's nothing
over.
left. Right.
That's it. Right. Okay. And again, the games can be simultaneous. In fact, in this example, game A could even be after game B. Game B could be the one that's played first. So even though you're saying, if I win game A, bet on game B, you can still make that bet even if game A is played after game B.
Right.
Right. Again, because it's all just, you just work out the math, right?
Right.
Okay. So an action reverse bet is making 2 if bets, 1 on each game. So one bet would be, okay, bet $55 on game A, and if it wins, bet $55 on game B.
Okay.
The second bet would be bet $55 on game B, and if it wins, bet $55 on game A.
Sounds like an exacta box. Almost.
Kind of, a little bit like that. But they call it a reverse, and you can see why they're doing it, right? It's an if bet, but in both directions, right? Okay. So what it comes down to, if you work this out, again, these games are just paying 10 to 11, right?
Okay.
If you lost both games, game A and game B, well, you'd lose $110.
Right. 55 on each
55 on each one, because they were both losers, so you're not betting anything more on each other, right? It's just both losers. Right. Okay. Again, I don't want to go through all the math here because we'll get all muddled like we do sometimes. But if you were to win only one game and lose the other, you'd lose a total of $60.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
The way that it works.
Exactly.
Okay. And if you were to win both games in our example, you'd win $200.
Okay.
And that you can kind of see because you're winning 50, 50, 50, and 50. Right. Right. That in always,
4
right?
4 times 50.
Right. So on our example, this action reversed, you're risking $110, and you could lose it all, or you could lose only $60 of it, or you could win $200.
Right.
Okay. So 110 is the most you can lose, right? Now, when you're betting a parlay, if you lose either game, you lose the whole bet, right? Both games have to win.
Correct.
So when it comes to a parlay, if you bet $110 on the parlay, just to kind of keep it consistent in our example, $110 on the parlay, if either game loses, you lose 110. But if you win both games,
you only win 100.
No, you don't win anything. If either game loses, I'm talking about the parlay.
Oh, if
now.
you made 2 separate parlays.
No, one parlay.
One parlay. Okay.
One parlay is like the 2 action reverse bets.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said if one team loses.
Yes.
Yeah.
If either team loses. You lose that $110 on the parlay.
Right.
But if both teams win, you win $286. That's 13 to 5.
Right.
Okay. So Kevin is asking which bet is better. Well, it depends on what you mean by better, right? Because in the case of the action reverse, you could lose less than 110, right? You could lose one of the games, but you won't lose everything you wagered.
You won't lose your whole initial investment, right?
However, if both games win, you're not going to win as much on the action reverse as you would on the parlay.
So it basically boils down to how aggressive do you want to be?
Right, exactly.
Do you want to go for the whole thing, or do you want to, hedge your bet a little bit, so to speak?
Yeah. Now, as it turns out, if you're just talking about house edge, the action reverse bet actually has a lower house edge, about 6.8%, whereas the parlay has a house edge of about 8.9%. So just as far as house edge goes, the action reverse is better. Now,
does a casino take an action reverse bet?
No. In fact, casinos, at least in Las Vegas, to my knowledge, don't take any kind of if bets.
Okay.
So if you want to make an action reverse bet or any kind of if bet, you're going to have to go online or talk to your local guy, like Kevin said, right?
Right.
Because as far as I know right now, Las Vegas doesn't take any kind of if or any kind of action reverse. So
yeah, because they're going to make you bet a parlay with a bigger house edge.
Right. And everybody kind of understands how a parlay works. The action reverse is a little confusing,
right.
Especially the way
there would be a lot less. There'd be a lot less discrepancies. Look, you lost both games, you lose.
Yeah.
You win both games, you win.
Yeah.
You lose one, you lose. You got to win both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Okay. Next call.
Hey guys, Vegas currently at Fremont Street. One of the crap table games, they have a proposition bet called repeaters. It's every number, and the odds vary from 40 to 8. An example would be, if you put $10 on the 2, if you roll the 2 twice, it's locked. They pays 40 to 1. Odds for 6 and 8, I believe it's 80 to 1. If you can roll 6 and 8 6 times, it comes out, it'll pay 80 to 1. Once you 7 out, however, on any come out roll, the bets are down. So, you gotta come across a shooter, hold the dice pretty long. I know you guys don't like 2 times odds, but I believe the doctor likes to play proposition bets. And this is the first time I've seen a repeater bet at a Fremont casino. You also have topless craps at Las Vegas Club and the Plaza. There is no fire bets downtown anymore. They're all tall or all small. Big egg.
Okay, no more fire bets downtown. So that should save us some money at Vimp.
Yeah.
Okay. But
it'll cost me more because they have the all tall, all small.
I know. So this repeater bet, yeah, I actually was reading online about this a little while back. Somebody was asking some questions about it. Here's how it works. It's a separate kind of side bet on the craps table, and you'll win if, for example, you bet on the 2. If they roll a 2 twice before a 7, you win, right?
Okay.
If they roll 3 3s before 7ing out, you win 50 to 1 if you bet on that, right? If they roll 4 4s before a 7, you win 65 to 1. So this is how this bet works. You bet on the individual ones, right? And it has to roll the same number of times as the number on the dice.
But what about 8s? It's not 8 8. So it goes the other way, 6 8s.
At some places, I'm not sure about Fremont, but yeah, so it goes up. You have to roll 5 5s if you bet on the 5. You have to roll 6 6s if you bet on the 6. And then it's like a mirror image where it's like 6 8s, 5 9s, et cetera.
Yeah, 4 10s.
They could have it where you had to roll like 8 8s. 9 9s, but then it's getting ridiculous. 12 12s, right? Who's going to bet on that, right? I mean, it doesn't make any sense, right? But, yeah, it's a side bet. And so, it's one of those fun things. In a way, for like the 4, 5, and 6, it's almost like just parlaying a place bet, right? You're just parlaying it before a 7 comes out, right?
Sure.
Right. Although you can't really do that with a 2 or a 3. Well, here's the weird thing. If a 7 comes out on the come out roll, so let's say the shooter makes his point, and then it's the come out roll and a 7 comes up.
Right.
These bets lose, which, okay, that's fine. They're working. But then you can't make the bet again until it's a new shooter.
Really?
Yeah, even though it makes, why not?
Why not?
I don't know. And I was online, before we got this call, there was somebody who was saying the same thing. And I said, really? You have to wait. And it's like, yes.
What? The casino's losing money on that.
I don't understand because all tall, all small, any 7 comes up, even if it's on the come out roll, you can make the bet again.
Yeah.
But no, it's per shooter.
Well, that's weird.
I don't know. Yeah, it is
seems
strange.
like they're losing money on that because let's say you guy rolled a 2 and any few numbers 7'd out. Well, you lose your 2, but then you might want to go back on it. And chances are he's not going to do it. Yeah. It's crazy. Casinos losing money.
I don't know if I said all the rest of the odds here, but if you roll 5 5s, it's 80 to 1. 6 6s, it's 90 to 1. So yeah, they're big long shots.
They're long shots. Yeah.
So anyway, we'll have to try it, I guess. It's at Fremont, like he said, which is only double odds. But, if we got to get there to check out the repeater bet, we got to do it.
We got to do it. We got to play some double odds.
Yeah. All right. Next call.
Hey guys, it's Guillermo from California. My question, or I want you guys to comment on, is the 3-2 to 6-5 comment you guys spoke about a couple weeks ago. And I'm curious to find a way to get around that because at my limit, all I'm going to find is 6-5 in Vegas at the Strip, which is where I primarily play and stay unless I go to downtown. So I was thinking, just to get your feedback on this, if I was to not tip the dealer, but have them keep all my blackjack, the extra part of the blackjack. So if I get $12.50 on a $10 table, they keep $2.50 per blackjack, but I don't tip anywhere else. Typically, I tend to tip quite a bit, so I might actually be ahead, and it makes me feel all right playing 6-5. when nothing better is available. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Have a great day. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a dilemma now for low rollers on the strip. You want to play a $5 table, it has to be a 6-5 game.
It's going to be a 6-5 game.
You don't have any choice.
Right.
So, but what he's saying here is, okay, instead of tipping just, when I feel like it or, on a good hand, making a bet for the dealer.
Right.
Just when I make a blackjack and I've got, say, $10 out there and it pays 12, I think you said $12.50, you meant 12.
Right.
But it pays $12. Just every time that happens, just toss the extra $2 to the dealer.
Sure.
I mean, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to tip anyway, I mean, that's as good as any other way.
That's a good way to do it, right?
I mean, still, ultimately, what it turns out is now you're just getting even money for blackjack. But again, this is a recreational blackjack play, right? Where you're betting $5. You want to tip the dealer. You're having a good time. I mean, that's fine. And then like you said, you don't make the tips that you normally would at a 3-2 table. Because at a 3-2 table, maybe, things are going good and suddenly it's like, okay, I'm going to bet $5 on this hand for the dealer. But instead, just, anytime I got those extra $2, just, toss it out there.
Right. Well, maybe you're playing at a $5 table.
Yeah.
6-5. You hit blackjack.
Yep.
You take your $5, you give the dealer your $1, and you tell him what you think about 6-5.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah, but it's not the dealer's fault. I feel sorry for these dealers.
Okay, call the pit guy over and tell him what you think about. And
but I don't know the pit. They don't want to make you go.
Okay, you take the $1, you throw it in a trash can.
There you go. Okay, I think you found the best solution. All right, one final call.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike, it's your buddy Ed in New Jersey. I just want to let you guys know that the guys over at Tipping the Odds Las Vegas, Mitch and Dr. Kev, they got a new blackjack book out. It's available on Amazon. It's got all the basic stuff you need with no filler. I was lucky enough to have a chance to look at an early copy of it, and they did a really good job. So I thought you might want to let the listeners know about that. All right, be well.
Yeah, well, one nice thing about being in podcasting like this is we've kind of become friends with other podcasters. It's not like, nobody's really making money on this, so it's not like we're, competing to make money and what have you. So we become friends with a lot of these other podcasters. Yeah, Mitch and Dr. Kev are great guys. They've got this new book out it doesn't delve into, like counting and complications like that. It's really for the recreational player. It tells you everything that's true, basic strategy and what to look for. Yeah. And, just really good book. And speaking of which, too.
How do you get that book?
Oh, Amazon. I'll put a link to it in our show notes.
Okay.
Yeah. You just go to Amazon and get it. And a lot of listeners probably know too, Tim Dressen over at 500. He's got a new book out called The Outsider's Guide to Las Vegas. That's full of all that 500, sarcasm. And, he, the great thing is, when Tim is, telling stories, he'll tell you when like a property is crappy. Yeah. Or, here's the airline that you absolutely should not fly on, right? He doesn't pull any punches. So, and I'll put a link to his book there. I guess, we're going to have to write a book now. That seems to be the trend among podcasters.
You're going to have to write a book.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know that I can do that.
I don't have the patience for it, I don't think. I don't know
I'm
what
glad to hear
about.
from Ed. I got a funny story since I didn't even know. I'm reading this for the first time that Ed had called, right? I had a dream about him a few nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. I had a dream about us being in Atlantic City.
Oh, all right.
But Ed was in the dream and I could see his face so vividly. And we were standing at that craps table and Ed was standing there and I don't know, he said something to me. I said something to him. We were playing craps. Bizarre dream, but it's just funny. I was thinking about him and the next morning I thought, we haven't heard from him in a while.
Yeah.
And then
there he is. And, I think he's going to be still planning on coming to Vimp. So we should see him this October. Yeah, that'll be great. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Hey, we want to thank, both William and Victor for, PayPal donations, over the past 2 weeks. We really appreciate these donations, guys. We are, building up a fund to get some equipment where we might actually be able to, Skype with some other people and maybe have some guests on or at least talk with other people. So we really appreciate those donations. Hey, be sure to check out our TV listings showing all the gambling related shows coming up within the next 2 weeks. We update those listings every Wednesday using a customized program to search through all the raw American TV data. Just go to our webpage, youcanbetonThat.com, and click on the link at the top that says TV listings. We'd love to hear from you. Call our voicemail hotline at 951-292-4377. That's 951-2-WAGERS. Or you can email us at youcanbetonThat@gmail.com. Also, follow us on Twitter at YouCanBetOnThat. We always tweet when we're in a casino or on our way to a casino, and we'd love to meet up with you. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/youcanbetonthat. And finally, head on over to iTunes and write a review on us. When you do, it helps us get new listeners. What do you got for us, Dr. Mike?
Well, I'm just sitting here thinking, this is a good time of year. Baseball's in its, stretch run, so to speak. It's getting down to the nitty gritty. So we like that.
Yep.
And, football starting. They're in training camp now.
Yeah. Like preseason starts next week.
Yeah. There's the first preseason game. I saw an ad last night for NBC for the first preseason game. Yeah. And, so that's fun.
Now, are you a shill for NBC? Because you really emphasized on the last episode how you're watching NBC and now you brought it up again tonight.
Yeah. I can't say how much they're paying me, but let me tell you this. It starts with a 0.
Well, I'll tell you, because you never mentioned any of the other networks.
Well, actually, I like CBS too.
All right.
We watch a lot of CBS.
Okay.
So, for network TV.
Oh, okay, I understand.
Yeah. And I should promote ABC since my brother works for them.
Oh, that's right. He works for Disney. Yeah, that's true.
They're owned by ABC. Yeah. And ESPN owned by ABC.
All right, move on.
But anyway, I'm just saying it's an exciting time of year.
Yeah.
And then we got Vimp coming up.
Yep.
It's closer than you think because October's going to be here anytime now. August is winding down.
Yep.
I know it's only August 5th, but it's winding down as far as I'm concerned.
All right.
So, it's exciting. Seems like everything's going well. Our karma's good. That's why we're winning at the craps table.
That must be, I guess. And, our friend Jason is going to try to get us into fantasy football this year, which we've never done before. So,
I don't know about
we have to do it.
It's a lot of work.
I know, but we've got a podcast now, so we have to do it. We can't, years past, we could have said, oh, it's too much work. But now we have a podcast.
Let me ask you this. Will this cut into any of my casino time?
No.
Okay, then we'll do it.
All right. Thanks for listening.